The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good afternoon, chapter volunteers and leaders. Thank you for joining us for the SMPS 2018-19 volunteer orientation. I just want to give everyone a heads up first that us at headquarters, we're having a bit of difficulty with the internet. So for now we are set, but if we drop off for any reason, we'll send a message out to all attendees with some information on how to reconnect with us. So we'll go ahead and get the show started. So before we begin, all lines are muted. If you have a question, please type your question in the questions box anytime during the session. We will start we'll stop periodically after some key topics and basically touch on any questions you do have. So please send them as we go through the webinar. And just so everyone knows, this session will be recorded and it will be uploaded to my SMPS, and it will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you will be, if you do have to drop off for any reason, you will be able to find the recording. And I'll introduce our presenters today. We have Josh Miles.
Next slide.
He's the Vice President of Marketing. Tina Myers, Deputy Executive Director. Antonio Payne, Chief Financial Officer. Chris Rickman, SMPS President. And myself. My name is Julio Santos, Membership and Chapter Services Coordinator. And that said, we'll go ahead and pass this along to Chris. Chris, are you ready?
I'm ready. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for raising your hand and stepping up and taking on the task of volunteering. It doesn't matter what role you have on the board or serving on a committee, each and every one of you is important to the success of the society. So thank you again. And I want to give everybody an update on where we are with the society's strategic plan. And how it's going to affect you. Josh and Tina and Antonio are going to go into more detail on a few of these items, excuse me, as we go through the presentation. But I just want to kind of give you a high-level look at what the plan is and where we are and what some of the plans are. So, Josh, next slide. So we have 4 objectives to our society strategic plan. Objective number 1 is to change the SMPS structure, content, and marketing as needed to demonstrate the value to firm leaders. The research that we went through found that a lot of firm leaders may not appreciate the value of SMPS and what it can do for their organizations. So to address this, we are looking at strategies to better engage firm leaders so we can improve their understanding and perception of SMPS and the value that it can bring to their firms. Objective number 2 is to implement an organizational structure to create a more consistent SMPS experience. We know as a board and as headquarters that there is a lack of consistency among all of our 58 chapters across the nation. So to help with creating a consistent member experience, the chapter leaders really need to focus on the big picture ideas and not so much on the administrative stuff. So we are going to resolve this by 1, looking at improved training for chapter leaders. This could potentially be the expansion of PLS, which is our President's Leadership Symposium. We don't know what that really is going to look like yet. We're still talking about that, but there's a strong possibility of expanding that to include more chapter leaders. We are looking at other ways to support chapter operations, and Antonio is going to talk about billhighway later on in the presentation. I think everybody's going to be excited about that. And then we also are looking at enhancing the products and services that are offered to the chapters by HQ, whether that be, additional educational materials or maybe helping the programs and education chairs with understanding what it takes to put on a good quality program. So those are really some of the things that are going to have a big impact on you as a chapter leader. The third objective is to vigorously market the value of marketing and business development. We know that marketing is often underappreciated at the leadership level of many of our firms. So to address this, we are going to communicate the value of marketing, really define what is marketing and business development in the AEC industry, and then how can they have an impact on firm performance. We want to make sure everybody in our industry understands that, you know, marketing, a marketing coordinator is different than a proposal coordinator, and a lot of times firms don't understand the difference and use those interchangeably. And then objective number 4 is to communicate our strategic plan. Of course, the plan's not going to work unless you tell people about it. So obviously you're hearing about it now, and we're going to look for other avenues to continually communicate this plan for the next 2 to 3 years. So I would encourage you to keep the society plan front and center as you begin to work through your planning for the chapter. It's our goal that all the chapters plans kind of tie into the overall plan of the society. We're all here, and I know there's a slide later that we're trying to be one SMPS, whether it be from the society standpoint, the foundation standpoint, the chapter standpoint. We're all one SMPS, and we're all here together. So it kind of needs to flow together. And so if there is anything that we can do as a board or that staff can do to help, please reach out. We're all here to help you guys be successful as we move forward for the next 2 to 3 years. So thank you, and I will pass it back over to Julio.
Thank you, Chris. And now we'll go ahead and discuss the rebrand, and Josh will touch on that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being on today's webinar. I'm sure for many of you who were at Build Business 2017, you heard that this was coming. For those of you who were at PLS in April of 2018, you heard more about this launch, and you got a little bit of the tease, the first sneak peek about the new brand. And for those of you who are at Build Business in San Diego back in August, you got to see the big reveal. This is not something that was done quickly. This process has been going on for over 2 years, something that the board of directors, staff, and several agency partners have been working on very hard since actually late 2016, when we formally adopted our new vision statement, Business Transformed Through Marketing Leadership. So as Chris stated, with our new strategic plan, with our new vision statement, and this process that's been going on for the past 2 years, this is really the perfect time for us to have launched the new brand. So for those of you who have not had a chance to read some of the kind of the backstory of this or watch the new video, you know, there's a lot of new things to go into depth. And for those of you who've heard some of this at the big reveal, there's a little bit of review here, but really SMPS for the past 45 years since our founding has been all about elevating the value of marketing within the AEC industries, and really about leading the banner that we can't just be about design and construction, that marketing and business development are really what bring business into our firms. So this rebrand is literally about flipping the script. Some of the things that are very opposite about where we've been in the past are that we've left the traditional navy blue and white for the opposite side of the color wheel. So we're now using business black and what we're calling revolution orange. And I've had people say it looks more gold than orange. Well, it's orange because we say it is. So if anybody asks, that's orange. We've also updated the brand voice. So the brand voice is going to be messaging that is more bold, focused, and motivating, which will evoke community, inspire confidence, and communicate a clear path for the future. We're calling this brand voice the marketing-led revolution. And really the goal is to rally our members around an industry-wide movement, leading the change in the role of marketing throughout AEC, which is, again, something that SMPS has been doing for the last 45 years. So you will notice on the new logo, we are quite literally out of the box now. So we're no longer inside of that blue square. We still have the underscore, which is what we call the bar underneath the M, which underscores quite literally the value of marketing, or the M of SMPS within our firms. So I really appreciate that we were able to carry that graphic identity element forward. And I'm excited to share with you also kind of what things we'll be doing on the chapter side and what comes next for you. As many of you may know, our only request in the near term was that your chapter place the new chapter logo. So all the chapters have new logos available on my SMPS. I'm sure Julio will be sending links to that just in case you're missing those. But all of the new logos and the guidelines for those are available on my SMPS. So what we had requested was by the end of September, you have that new logo live on your website and that you have the mission and vision statement for SMPS on the website as well. We are giving chapters until the end of next September 2019 to make all the other updates, which means you don't have to be crazy. You don't have to throw everything away. You don't have to burn everything with the old logo. Please make wise use of anything that is of value between now and then. And we're really just trying to get everything up to date by the end of next year. We understand that rollout takes time, and frankly, even things at HQ will take time to roll out. So you'll see those new elements kind of coming online over the next few months. So as I mentioned, available now are the chapter and regional conference logos. The brand guidelines are inside the folders for each of the chapters, so it's unique to your chapter. They're all the same, but the brand guidelines reflects your logo. All of the new brand typefaces are also available. And our new mantra video is live on our YouTube channel, as well as that file is available on my SMPS. If you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. You can search for Society for Marketing Professional Services on YouTube, and we really should be the very first link there. So you'll see that new black and Revolution orange logo on YouTube. Later this month in October, we will also be adding to my SMPS all of the Adobe Creative Suite templates for new business cards, letterhead, envelopes, name badges, and Avery name tags, as well as art for pop-up banners. On the Microsoft Word site, we will be delivering the digital file for the letterhead in case you prefer that over Creative Suite, as well as the PowerPoint template, which you're seeing in use here. And on the print side, we'll have a template for the postcard. In late November, we will be shipping out chapter leader lapel pins. We will also be sending out print copies of our new brochures. There are 3 different ones that are in development now for recruitment, overview, and firm leaders. And then we have recruitment posters, which I am about to approve the art for, which we'll be mailing out directly to members. If we have some overs, we'll ship those to your individual chapters as well to share with prospective members. But I think you'll be excited about the posters. And then also nearly ready to go live, we've put it down here for November, is our Shop SMPS store, where you will be able to order logoed apparel, table throws, awards, and all kinds of goodies. The Shop SMPS store already has all of the art for all of the chapters, so you can just specify which chapter it's for. Some of those items are a minimum quantity of 1. So if you want to order a backpack with your chapter logo, you can do that. Or if you want to order cups and mugs and those kind of things, some of those have a minimum quantity of 12, and I think maybe the highest one is 48. So really just depends on the item. The other thing that we're really excited about, speaking of the web, is that we are going to be updating the website platform for StarChapter. Now, if you are not already on StarChapter, we will have 3 or 4 different design templates that are all based on the new look and feel and have all of the new colors and all of the new fonts available. And Julio will be telling you more about kind of how that process works. I think an email already went out earlier this week, so you should be seeing more information on that very soon. Julio, do you want to?
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Thank you. And to clarify on Josh's point about the StarChapter website, I will, as soon as this ends, I'm going to send a survey out to all non-clients of StarChapter, and this survey will essentially just be able to gauge how quickly your chapter will be able to integrate with this new StarChapter website. And for those that are current clients, we'll be reaching out next week with a timeline of when you'll have the redesigns take place. So we're still in contact with StarChapter about that. So again, as soon as this ends, we'll send a survey out to the non-clients. So be on the lookout for that. And that message will go to the chapter presidents. And that said, StarChapter is one of the avenues for one of our other new platforms, and Antonio will talk about that.
Thank you, sir. So Chris briefly mentioned, he went over the vision and our strategic plan. This speaks directly to objective number 2, implement changes to our organizational structure to standardize the SMPS experience. Some of you guys heard about this at Build Business, and I've never seen so many marketers excited about a financial tool. I was very excited about that. Hopefully you guys will be just as excited. But just a quick overview about what billhighway does. They are a banking solution. They are a credit card payment processor, first and foremost. So that's how they will serve you guys as chapters. But beyond that, they provide tools that essentially automate most of the functions of the chapter treasurer. So if you can imagine, billhighway is just that. It'll be a conduit between your StarChapter platform and the headquarters membership database. So that will in turn provide real-time data between both systems. So if you have a member who updates their information in your StarChapter platform, that information will be pulled from billhighway and updated directly to our membership database. So there's constantly real-time data that you guys will receive and that HQ will receive in turn. A member in DC, for example, can register for an event in New Mexico, and New Mexico's website will recognize that member in DC as a member of SMPS. I know a lot of chapters have had issues around that. Just really exciting stuff. Imagine a world where you get your dues rebate from headquarters automatically, and that's automatically in real time deposited into your bank account. Real time, every day, bank reconciliation, payment tasks. You can do your online banking. I know a lot of chapters have had issues around when officers transition out of their roles. How many of you guys have to run down to the bank or track down the old officer and make sure that signature cards get changed? A lot of times, unfortunately, we've had chapters that have kind of been held hostage because a member, a treasurer, or another officer who's on the bank account has, and not nefariously disappeared, but just kind of they've fallen off. They're no longer in their role, and they're hard to reach because they're busy in their jobs, or maybe even they relocated. This will alleviate that. All of your banking can be automated and online, so you can change your officers and change your access remotely and by computer. You can, billhighway can provide accurate automated financials and even create most of the data in order for you guys to submit your tax forms, your 990s, to the IRS at the end of the year. And it could even go so far as to replace your financial software like QuickBooks. Really exciting stuff. That is just a quick and dirty description of what billhighway does. We are in the final stages of finalizing our contract with billhighway, and then we'll be able to offer it to you guys. Right now, We believe the integration should take about 6 months. They think by spring of 2019, we can get our chapter started, and we'll have an initial rollout of about 10 to 15 test chapters that we've identified. And so we'll be contacting you guys and more information on that to come. That's all I have.
Thanks, Antonio. And now we'll go ahead and stop for a question break. We did get quite a few questions, so we'll go through those. The first question: are there alternate font guidelines available for those chapters not yet on StarChapter? So I would ask that to Josh.
Yeah, we can provide some alternate fonts. However, again, you do have a year until you're required to make all of those updates, and each chapter does have a copy of the typefaces available to them on my SMPS. So I'm happy to provide some additional recommendations for ones that you can use. That's something we did think through. And of course, we'd prefer that you use the preferred typefaces first and foremost.
Thanks, Josh. And I have another one for you. Do we plan to create presentation, program announcement flyers, or survey card templates?
We do have a postcard template so far in the works, and we do have a PowerPoint template, and would be happy to get a list of additional requests sort of as we go, but I don't know that we have those specific use cases built out as chapter templates just yet. So if you would like to send me requests, I realize this is dangerous, but my email address is josh@smps.org. So I will look forward to having hundreds of emails following this with lots of requests, but you're welcome to email me at any point with additional requests, and we can certainly work those into the queue.
Thank you. We have a question about StarChapter. Someone's asking if it will be mandatory. And
I'll take that one. So
okay.
we will not mandate that you guys move to StarChapter, but we just think that the benefits of StarChapter and billhighway are so great that we won't have to twist your arms in order to do it. You'll hear more about it as we move along in the process, but we want to make you guys an offer you can't refuse.
And I'll piggyback onto what Antonio said. It's, we're not going to, headquarters is not here to mandate anything, but in order for us to move the society forward in the right direction, we would strongly encourage that everybody be on the same system. So from a member experience standpoint, they know and can operate around a website, they know exactly where to go. So if everybody's website and registration system was run through StarChapter, it would make our member experience that much better. So we're not going to mandate anything from headquarters or board, but it is our desire that we move people in that direction. And candidly, if as we get into this in 2 years, if there is another system out there that we see is better than StarChapter, then certainly we can start taking a look at that as well. But the reason we chose StarChapter is because we have 37 of the chapters already there, and so that was just a little bit easier to start with to start working through the billhighway process. But
thank you. And I should also jump in and mention that for those non-clients that are not on StarChapter at the moment, headquarters will be paying that initial setup fee. So we'll alleviate some of that for as far as the change there, as far as the setup. So we will be paying for that. And we have another question. Antonio, I believe you can answer this. Do you have a ballpark on the fee for the billhighway's banking service?
So basically, billhighway will make their money as your credit card processor. They charge a fee of 2.7% on every transaction, and then there's an added fee of 1.3%, which brings you a total of 4%, and that's well within the ballpark of most of our chapters. In some cases, there's a savings, but for that 4%, you get credit card processing, which is what you're paying now for all of your transactions, and you get all of these services, including banking and reconciliation and automated rebates and accurate financial statements. So I just think that in the end, you'll be saving money.
There's not going to be a monthly charge to the chapters for using Bill Highway. That headquarters is taking up all the setup costs for Bill Highway, and so the only cost to the chapter is the credit card processing fees and the additional 1.3%. So,
Thank you. And there are a few questions regarding the StarChapter and Bill Highway integration, their connection. And yes, Bill Highway, the only way for it to really integrate with your chapter at all is through StarChapter. And Antonio, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's
that is correct.
The gist of it. Yep.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, StarChapter has about, I'm sorry, right now, StarChapter has about 10 payment gateways that they accept. Bill Highway will be one of them once we get integrated here with our headquarters database. And at that point, the only way integration will work will be if you guys are on StarChapter.
Mm-hmm. And regarding Bill Highway, basically we're going to have some chapters set out for the StarChapter and the Bill Highway. We're going to have it kind of happen in waves when it comes to chapter integration. And that, again, is not set yet. So once that's set, once we identify the chapters that are going to be onboarded in October, November, December, all the way back, all the way to 1920 if need be, if someone already has a system in place, then but none of that is actually set in stone yet. So once we get that, we'll send that out. And I'll keep going because we have a ton of questions. So let me keep going on that. So Josh, will there be any WordPress templates for blog posts that align with the new branding regarding, for example, images, quotes, stats?
No, we do not currently have anything built out for WordPress, as Antonio alluded to. We're really trying to direct everybody over to the StarChapter platform. So again, might be worth something talking about. You're welcome to submit a request, and we can consider that in the coming months.
Thank you. We have a question regarding PayPal and StarChapter. So Bill Highway will essentially replace their processing system, will replace any of your current processing systems. Is basically how that transition will go. So whether it's PayPal, Authorize.net, whatever it may be, Bill Highway will essentially be your processing moving forward once you're on Bill Highway. And we also have a question regarding the StarChapter, the setup offer. So that is good. It's not for a limited time. So we fully expect some chapters to wait until whether that's the 2019 term year or whether it's in a month. So we do not have a deadline on that. So take your time, and really it should really align with your current objectives, commitments, and your availability. And for now, we'll put a hold on that, and I still have some questions, and we'll touch base on those in a bit. All right, so Tina, take it away.
Sure. Okay, so now we're at a part of the program where we talk a little bit more about SMPS, about your chapter, and the need for all of you as members of your chapter boards and as volunteers in a committee or whatever capacity you have. Just understanding in why there is a need to truly understand the organization overall, especially when you're talking to other members, individuals at programs, and just ensuring that you are well versed and can speak to lots of different things. So that said, we're going to go ahead and get started with our mission and vision. So can you go to the next slide? every one of you, again, regardless of the position that you hold within your chapter, should fundamentally understand the vision and mission of the organization overall. And remember that this vision and mission is not just that of the headquarters, it is of the entire society. So as a chapter, you do not need to create a new vision, you do not need to create a new mission, nor should you. Our vision for the society overall is business transformed through marketing leadership. And the mission, which aligns with it so well and has been in place for many years, is to advocate for, educate, and connect leaders in the building industry. So they're very simple, very memorable, and they are compelling. So if you know anything and remember anything, please know and recall and remember the vision and mission. These are the things also that if you go back to a couple of slides and what Josh was referring to needs to be on your website, hopefully these are already on your website. If you need to link to anything, you can even link to the website, our own smps.org. So if we go to the next slide. So here are some other fun things that all of you should know. You probably don't really think about it, but it is absolutely important as managers and as leaders of the organization and as the chapter, you understand some fundamentals of the organization and how we are formed and what we are about. So we often refer to us as a nonprofit or not-for-profit organization. So here's a little bit about that, and I will read this. A not-for-profit organization, and we often refer to it as a nonprofit, is a tax status. It allows trade associations, professional societies, and charitable organizations to operate almost all operations free of federal and state taxes. To the point a little bit more, and why I've highlighted not-for-profit, that term is better used for us rather than a nonprofit, because sometimes when you think and say the words nonprofit, there is this feeling out there that we don't need to make a profit, nor should we make a profit, or maybe we can't make investments. All of those different things sometimes come up over the past years talking with our chapter leaders and managers and not truly understanding what this means. But absolutely, as a business, and that is what we all are, whether it's the headquarters or an individual chapter, we need to make money. But now that not-for-profit status allows us to use that revenue and that extra money and that profit for giving back to our constituents, our members, in a way that it really is going to benefit them. You can make investments, and you should make investments. So this is something that all of you should be aware of. If there is ever any confusion, absolutely, we are here as a business, and we should be making money on behalf and working on behalf of our members overall in their experience. So we can go to the next slide. So here's another fun thing that I think that sometimes not everyone is well aware of, and on occasion over the years we get a question about what really is the relationship with the society overall and the foundation. Is it one and the same? Are they separate organizations? How does it all work? So they are technically two separate organizations. The Society for Marketing Professional Services, we are a 501c6 organization who is led by our board of directors, and by the way, our CEO is a member of the board of directors, and managed by the headquarters staff. The SMPS Foundation, however, has a separate tax status, and it is identified as a Type 1 organization, which for you just means it's a supporting organization, which is really under the society overall. However, Josh, if you go to the next slide, this is what we want all of you to know. Regardless of the tax status and the filing and them being separate organization, that is not how we work, nor is it how we want to work. We are one SMPS. The work of the foundation and the tax status and the charitable contributions that it can gain to support the research and all the great things that they are doing right now supports everything that we are doing in terms of our mission and vision for our stakeholders, for our members, everything that is SMPS. So with that good research and the work that they are doing, SMPS now can go ahead and work that information and deliver it in terms of content and education and deliverables that really are going to help everyone that has a vested interest in this organization and the profession overall. So to separate them out as two separate organizations, which in the past, it kind of was like that. it simply is not that way any longer. We are one organization. We are unified. The leaders, the volunteers, the staff, we are all working together really well, all in the best interest and for you as our stakeholders and for our leaders in the organization overall. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And Julio, I'm going to have you take it from here.
Thank you, Tina. So I wanted to give everyone a quick snapshot of where we're at in terms of membership and as a society and how much ground we really cover. We are a membership of 7,000. Actually, we're hovering around 7,100 right now. So we're actually a little above
7,184?
7,184. There you go. That's the correct number. We have 58 chapters, and that's United States and Canada. If you see that little, the white star right there, that's Ontario. And we're always working on developing more chapters. So we have a few in the works. Hopefully we get that up and running. And we have over 900 volunteers. Actually, this year is one of our highest number of volunteers. I think the count was around 980 or so almost 1,000, which is amazing considering that we're, in the grand scheme of things, we're a bit of a smaller association at 7,000. So that's amazing that more than 10% of our members decide to volunteer with us, and we thank you for that. And our volunteer board is led by 7 officers and directors. Josh, next slide, please. There we go. So, of course, we have Chris Rickman, Nancy Erstreet, Melissa Lutz, Barbara Stiles, Beth Harris, Catherine McCullough, Stacy Stout, and our CEO, Michael Geary. We also have 14 staff here in at headquarters, and there you go. I won't go through them all, but just know that we're always here to answer any of the questions you have. I'm sitting at my desk right now. Antonio is also, Tina is also. So we're always ready to pick up the phone or respond to an email. So just keep that in mind. And that said, we'll go to another question break, and I'll read through the questions really quickly. This question, going back to Bill Highway and StarChapter, Antonio, if you can answer for me, how would chapters deposit cash and checks with Bill Highway?
Bill Highway has an automated system. You can take pictures of your checks and deposit them that way, just like you do your own checks. Hopefully, you guys are not running to the bank to physically deposit checks anymore. But there's also an app that's available as well, and they also have a reader for processing. If you want to get a Square, their counterpart to the Square, where you can process payments that way as well.
Thank you, Antonio. We had a comment about our cool map, so we'll go ahead and we'll post that the image of the map, because I understand some chapters may want to use that as an image of kind of where we're located. So we'll make sure that goes somewhere in my SMPS. All chapter leaders.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And as far as StarChapter, we just need some clarification on the templates. We do have 3 templates. And those are, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh or Antonio, but those are within StarChapter at the moment, and it's just a matter of implementing those and redesigning your current website.
Yeah, that's correct. The templates will all be available inside of StarChapter, and again, you'll be working with a representative from StarChapter to select which template is best for your chapter and to work through that process. So we're going to be doing, or better said, StarChapter will be implementing these at about 5 per month. That's the current rate. If they can ramp that up faster, I'm sure they will, but that's the current plan.
Thank you, Josh. And I think we can go ahead and move on.
Sure. So before we go to the next slide, though, I want to make a comment on chapters overall, the number of chapters that Julio had referred to. So today we have 58 chapters. As you said, we have 2 who are in the midst of becoming one very close and one who's really, trying to make something happen. But for those of you out there who might be having conversations with other individuals saying, oh, I want to start a chapter, or they're interested in some way, I want you to know that as a staff in talking with our leaders, we are working diligently and trying to be more proactive in identifying ways to create opportunities for more chapters to be developed, identifying spaces and in locations within the organization, within the country, that just need some type of presence. But sometimes that doesn't always work so well because it simply isn't sustainable, and there aren't really maybe enough of the industry or marketing professionals or those who have become members in a given area. So if you get questions about how to start a chapter or what is required, well, certainly, first of all, you can call either me, Tina Myers, or Julio Santos, directly. But you should know that we are trying to build a standard that really is going to help anyone who is going to be a chartered chapter from here on out to be sustainable. So really looking into the demographic and the geography of a given area, but even putting a different number on how many members must be a part of a new chapter to make sure that it's sustainable and you can gain and get the type of volunteers that you need. So we are actually looking at right now a minimum of 30 individuals who need to be a member with other criteria associated with that. We will be sharing this with all of you because we know, again, you have some great connections of people who are interested in starting something, but we want to put a bug in your ear and help you understand. So these are some of the things that we are talking about also. So I just wanted to mention that, Julio, and then we can go to the next slide.
Thank you, Tina. And looks like you'll be talking about everyone's role.
So let's talk about everybody's role. Many of the things that we'll be talking about on the next couple of slides will be specifically responsibilities of members of the board of your chapters. However, for those of you who are not currently on a board, but you're serving as a member of a committee or you're an interested volunteer, this information is really important for you as well, because hopefully you will be in a position at some point in time to maybe take on a role as a member of the board, and you'll know exactly what those responsibilities are. But also, even if you are not inclined or maybe not going to be in a position of that level of responsibility, you should know what your board is responsible for as well as managers and leaders of the organization. So let's go ahead and start talking about those with the next slide. So for those of you who are on the board, of course, most of you have a monthly board meeting, and I think some of this is kind of muddled together, so we will get you the right slides, but I'm sure I can read it from my notes anyway. But number one, when you are having your monthly or every other month you have your board meeting, please make sure that you have your treasurer giving you the financial information that you need in front of you. You must understand your financial position at all levels. It is not just the responsibility of the president, nor just the responsibility of the treasurer. As members of the board, every one of you are equally responsible for the financial well-being of your organization. So just by virtue of not knowing doesn't mean that you are not responsible should something go awry. So please make sure that you have sound financial statements in front of you. And if you don't know what those financial statements are, and if the treasurers of you out there who are listening in, please, Antonio Payne, our CFO, is more than happy to help you navigate that. He has a lot of processes in place. We have toolkits for treasurers also, and just good practices for the chapter overall. But I cannot emphasize the need for this enough. Your financial well-being is critical. Your awareness of what is going on is imperative. You should never have a treasurer or someone say, I just don't have it available 1 month, and then the next month I just don't have it available again, but everything is fine. So please be very thoughtful about making sure that information is in front of you. The other thing that you need to be paying attention to as members of the board, and when you're around the table, there are a lot of great discussions that are going on. And sometimes those discussions, they might be Half of you might be in agreement to a direction or a program that you might need to work on. Others might not really be in line with that either way. Most of the time, you're not going to have something that is so critical or so that is really not well received as a conversation that this is an issue. But if you ever find yourself in a position where you're having a tough conversation among the board, and you all go, you are leaving the board meeting and still not feeling settled, at the end of the day, here's the message I want to relay: is that you are one voice, and the discussions that you have around that table are really meant to be confidential and not shared with others and membership at large overall. And so all this does is it lends to your credibility and the maturity of the leadership of your chapter. So even though you might have dissenting voices, if you all you're all voting and there are a couple of you that aren't in agreement, but you vote. And then for those of you who weren't in agreement, please just understand that you still need to be supportive of what that decision was of the board overall. And so that's just going to make life certainly better, but it's going to help really bring respect to the positions that you hold and the decisions that you have made. Also, as not just board members, but for those of you who are members of a committee, again, volunteers, maybe you're at a given event, wherever you are, you're still representatives of the organization overall. They're going to see you as, oh yeah, I saw you at the SMPS event, and I see that you're the communications leader, that you were helping putting out, all the information on the tables of the program that I went to. So you're seen as a representative and agent of the organization. So always be aware of that role that you play. Promote the society in a very positive way. When you're also at other industry events, and we know that you're members of all different types of organizations. You might be working with AIA or SAME or CREW or all kinds of sister organizations out there. It is wonderful that you are part of that because we have such an alliance with all of these organizations. But be thoughtful about how you're speaking about SMPS and promote it and find ways that we can collaborate. But always just remember and be thoughtful about the role that you play as an agent and a representative of SMPS. We also want to make sure that whenever you are in need of assistance or maybe you're just not sure of a direction or how SMPS can support you, never hesitate to call any one of us on the staff, and even the board of directors. The information for you, the contact information, is all in the About page of the SMPS website. We are here to help you. But more than anything, please remember, sometimes we don't know what we don't know, the questions that you have, and we might assume that you already know that. So never hesitate to communicate with us what is going on, even if you have a challenge and just need an ear to navigate through a challenge that you're having, whether it is with another volunteer or it is with someone else that is within the membership. We are here to help you navigate that situation or answer any other questions that you have. And then even some of the questions you just asked here. Well, what are we doing for the branding and other things that maybe might not have been on the list? As Josh just said, well, we are open to thinking about, well, yeah, maybe we can do that for you. So again, do not hesitate to communicate with us and send us your questions and concerns and see how we can help you. I'm trying to read the slide a little bit, but let me see. I'm going to number 7, actually. Read your bylaws. This is not just something that all of the board members need to be aware of, but as members and as volunteers, all of you should know what your chapter bylaws state, what those obligations and promises are. So as chapter leaders and chapter board members specifically, your bylaws are going to answer probably many questions that if you haven't read them, you might not have been aware of. How you even conduct your nominations and elections process, when that nominations communications needs to go out, when you need to actually let the membership know about all of the different opportunities. So just make sure you are well versed and you know everything that is in your bylaws. And I know that many of you also have some bylaws that are very dated. Now is a good time to start refreshing those, because even though we've gone through, I think about 2 years ago, Chris, a
Yeah.
round of updating some model bylaws, we're going to be going through another set of updates. Nothing crazy, but this set of updates will be more in line with helping you with your nominations and elections process, and also refining and putting a better number to the amount of board members that you really should have as a chapter. So letting that be a way that can help you really focus around the board table on what you need to focus on, and then still having an opportunity to train and develop volunteers and come through the ranks in another way. So we will be reaching out to you on that as we refine these even further, what that really means. If you have just changed your bylaws, do not worry about this at all. You are still fine. But just as we are going forward, we just want to make sure that we have a sound set for many years to come. If you have any questions on that going forward, I am your point of contact for that, Tina Myers at smps.org. I'm happy to have calls with you, work through your bylaws. I know that there are already some in the works of changing, and I will be reaching out to you on all of that. Chris, is there anything on the bylaws in terms of the new round that you would like to refer to?
Well, it's, certainly we would like everybody to really take a look at the new bylaws, and if you haven't adopted bylaws in a while, we'd like for you to adopt the new round. It really puts things in alignment with the society bylaws that we updated a couple of years ago at Bill Business. The membership voted on the updated bylaws. So I really encourage you to take a look at that and see how yours aligns, and certainly Tina can help with that. And I do want to add something when we talk about, your role as a board member. We all need to remember that when because we're a board member of the society, we have to be careful about promoting our business as that board member. We are there doing business and for the society. So, there certainly SMPS is there to build your network, and certainly we want it to be a place to do business. But as a board member, you have to be careful that you're not seen as using your position on the board to be out there promoting your business. And that's what you're using that board position for. So you are in that position to promote the society, and then use your true membership to have those one-on-one meetings if you want to do some business. But don't don't use your position on the board to be out promoting your business. It's there to promote the society and the betterment of the chapter. So I mean, we all have to remember that, and certainly all of the board members at the society level, we're all the same way. We're there for the society first, and we're not there to make sure we're trying to get business out of becoming a board member. So I wanted to put that out there, make sure everybody remembers that.
Thank you. Well, and then that said, there was another point here, and I know it's kind of mixed up on the slide, but there is a note here on staying current on issues and trends affecting the society and its membership overall. So that's one of those things that is really an obligation for all of you. Again, regardless of your position, be aware of what is going on in the AEC industry overall, the trends. Those are things that are also going to help you in deciding the type of things that really need to be delivered to your membership, even in terms of programming or content, and just being well-versed and experts as representatives of the organization. So be thoughtful about that. And certainly, just even in the role that you have within your own firm, you're probably already well aware of these things, but think of them also in terms of your role in the society overall. So I think we can go to the next slide now. So thinking about what Chris just said and your responsibilities of a member of the board in particular, you have real fiduciary responsibility. So let's talk about what really a fiduciary is and what it is not. So can we go to the next slide? So a fiduciary, many times when people hear this word, the term that comes to mind is it's about money. It's about fiscal responsibility. And that really is not the picture here. At the end of the day, the bigger and more correct meaning of fiduciary is to hold in trust. So for a nonprofit, what that means is that the board of directors holds the organization, our society, in trust for current and future members. That's what their role is. And so those fiduciary responsibilities are the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. These are legal responsibilities that every member of the board must follow through on. And so the duty of care, and just to give you a brief understanding of what that means, and really this is very much what Chris was alluding to and talking to, is being thoughtful, being consistently acting in the best interest of the organization overall. So when you're at the board table and you're at the meetings and you're talking about the work of the chapter and what you need to provide to your members overall, are you being thoughtful about the best interest of the membership, about the society? Are you making sound judgment? Are you making judgment based on something entirely different outside of the scope of the vision and the mission of the organization, outside of the scope of what is really important to the members overall and why they joined and belong to this organization? So that is about care. Then the duty of loyalty goes to the points about avoiding conflicts of interest, making sure that you are avoiding using position or assets that result in appropriate financial gain or benefit right in front of you as a bulleted point. It's very important that you take this seriously and that you are loyal to this organization in the role of a board member within your chapter, in the leader within the organization. And then you have the duty of obedience. It sounds strict, but here's what it really means, is that you are faithful to the mission and goals, and you are faithful to the organization overall. But now you have governing documents, you have budgets, you have policies and procedures, you have bylaws, you have articles of incorporation. Those things you must follow too. You must be thoughtful about looking at those policies and procedures. You must be thoughtful about looking at those bylaws, and the decisions that you make and the things that you do are in line and aligned with those. So you can go to the next slide, Josh. So here are some examples of things that really align with the tools of governance, the fiduciary responsibilities of care and loyalty and obedience, to kind of give you a little perspective overall. So your articles of incorporation, first of all, every single chapter does have a set of articles of incorporation. Otherwise, you would not be a chartered chapter. If you don't know where they are, we probably can help you navigate that. We might even have a copy for you. And Antonio Payne is that point of contact for you if you have any questions on it. But when you're thinking of your articles of incorporation and your fiduciary responsibility, that's about obedience. And many of you may not realize this, and anyone who went to PLS probably does, but we talked about a set of governing documents and the hierarchy of those governing documents. And so there are some documents that actually are above, say, the bylaws in terms of their hierarchical order and what you need to abide by and obey. So your articles of incorporation, they're at the very top there. That is actually can affect your tax status. So if something in your bylaws or your strategic plan or some other policy and procedure says something entirely different than your articles of incorporation, well, your articles of incorporation supersede that. You really need to be in line with what that says. But they're so general and so short that it is unlikely that that would ever be an issue. But it just gives you a sense of what I mean and referring to when I'm talking about a hierarchical order. So some of the other tools of governance and things that will kind of align with obedience, care, loyalty, your bylaws, your strategic plan, your affiliation agreement, the budget, of course, care, obedience. Be aligned with those. Don't just disregard them. They exist for a purpose. And if they don't work for you, if something is not quite right, your policies and procedures are really not in line with where you need to be as a chapter anymore, change them. that's what you need to do. And that's why in your bylaws, you want to be succinct, not too detailed, so you can be nimble with the things that you're doing year to year within policies and procedures. So hopefully that makes sense and gives you some examples of what that means and a better understanding of what fiduciary means overall. But that really is about loyalty, care, and obedience, and truly being thoughtful in your role as a leader within the organization. So as a chartered chapter, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's some things that maybe some of you know and maybe some of you don't. So let's make sure you do. So for most of you, you may never have seen the affiliation agreement that we have with each chapter. Some of them have been sent out years ago, and your president at that time signed off on it, and of course SMPS did as well. Well, we are looking at changing this process up so all of you, every year the president is well informed of what that affiliation agreement says, and we have an opportunity to change it as we go forward. So in a nutshell, an affiliation agreement must be signed by SMPS, the representative of SMPS, and the chapter president at the time. And so an affiliation agreement is an understanding and a promise of how we will work with one another. So it will outline what we expect of a chapter, but it will also outline what we will do and what we are committed to do for our chapters and what we will do together. So there is no misunderstanding of each of our roles. That must be done before you can become a chartered chapter, and we will make sure that is in front of all of you going forward on an annual basis. So there are no surprises. And there should be no surprises at this point, but I just think that many of you might not even be aware that there is a document out there that commits us to one another and the relationship that we have. So another thing in terms of a chartered chapter and what we do for all of you, and this is also outlined in the affiliation agreement, is the group exemption. So we talked about what it is to be a not-for-profit. We are all a 501c6, but that is not something that we expect our chapters to go and file and make sure it's updated. Our commitment to you and what our CFO works on every year is making sure that through the IRS we have still this committed group exemption. All of our chapters are on that list and everything is in good standing. On occasion, you might be asked for a certificate of your exemption, or you might be asked for a letter or something like that. There is no certificate, but what we can do for you is either give you an affidavit or a letter that shows that you're a part of that group exemption. If you ever find yourself in a situation where someone is asking for something like that, the best person to contact to get you that information or that quick letter is Antonio Payne. And again, sometimes we might want something a little bit more. We can put together an affidavit, but that's all you need. So there is no work on your end to do anything. We take care of all of that for you. We also are obligated, and again, this is outlined in the affiliation agreement, to provide D&O insurance for all of our directors at a chapter level. So the D&O insurance actually helps protect the individual, you, over personal liability overall. And so, Antonio, are you still on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to D&O insurance just a little bit more so there's a better understanding of what that provides for them?
Absolutely. So D&O insurance is provided by HQ for each of our chapters, and it covers all board members. And the important designation that Tina talked about is paying attention to your bylaws, because if your bylaws identify a certain number of board members, say 5, just for the sake of argument, and on your website you have identified 10 board members, then that could create a sticky situation when it comes to if ever, God forbid, we were sued because a director or an officer was deemed to be personally liable for any activity that was related to chapter business. That could serve to impair any claim that we could file with our insurance company related to that that lawsuit. So it's very important that you pay attention to your bylaws. D&O insurance is there to protect the officers, but also to protect the chapter and the chapter's assets in case anything happens. Anybody that is an officer of the chapter is covered under that policy.
Okay, well, thank you. I know right now it is 3:36 and we are past our allotted time. So we just have a few more points to make and a couple of slides. For those of you that need to leave, we certainly understand this is being recorded, so you won't lose any of this. I just want to make sure that we are letting you know that we are over our time. At this point, are there any other questions? And certainly can go back to even Bill Highway, the Grand. We know that there's still lots of questions out there.
Yeah, we had a question regarding the StarChapter pricing, not only the setup fee, but the moving forward, the subscription fee. And I would just advise to take a look at their website. They do have all the subscription pricing, the monthly pricing. If you take a look, you'll be able to see kind of where you fall in. It is by member size, or size of membership, I should say. So if, I recommend just taking a look at their website, and so that way you know what pricing is available for you. And is there a this might be a question for Tina, is there a copy of the new strategic plan, or is that still being worked on?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, there is an outline that I'm happy to give it to you, Julio, to put on my SMPS. It outlines everything that Chris has talked about in one sheet. So happy to share that.
Perfect. Thank you. So everyone can be on the lookout for that to be uploaded to my SMPS soon.
Absolutely.
And it looks like that's it for now.
Okay. Well then, Julio, I think that you have next points to talk about.
Yes, I do. So I'll go over the resources for chapters. So I'll touch on a few key things that we have available for you. I'll touch on, of course, the MySMPS was mentioned multiple times today, and there's good reason for that. MySMPS has a ton of information, resources, and that's not only resources from headquarters, but that's resources from your peers. So MySMPS is basically a library within itself that holds on to any documents, conversations, discussions. So we definitely recommend that you go in, take a little dive. As far as chapter leaders go, there's an all chapter leaders community, which I've mentioned. Every chapter leader that's at least in our database, per the rosters that you submitted last month, they're in the all chapter leaders community. So if you don't have access to that, just reach out to myself, julio@smps.org, and I'll give you access to that. And as I mentioned, not only resources for your role, but also resources for your career. We have a great marketing resource center that has a ton of webinars. We're talking lunchtime learning labs recordings that are in there that go back years. So if you don't get a chance to see those on a bi-monthly basis, which is when they come out, be sure to check my SMPS marketing resource center, and you'll be able to take a look. And of course, all the stuff is still relevant, and it's still very helpful. And also in the All Chapter Leaders community, you have the manuals. So all manuals are within that community. All the toolkits are within that community. We have a new calendar for chapter leaders. So basically, the calendar itself gives you an outline on what is due throughout this 18-19 year. Not only what's due, but what events are coming up. Where business development workshops, seller doer workshops. So I do suggest you take a look there, and that way you kind of know what's coming up, what's ahead. And as far as the chapter education report, you see there, it's a 600-page document, and I really recommend you take a look. And those 600 pages are full of information. So at the end of every fiscal year, we ask our chapters to submit an education report. And with that education report, we compile all that into one large document. And that also lives on my SMPS, All Chapter Leaders community. And I would recommend taking a look, seeing what other chapters are doing, what's successful, what's not successful. It outlines pricing for these events. It also outlines attendance and ratings for these events. And what's mentioned also is SurveyMonkey. So SurveyMonkey, we have a chapter account for you that when it says hundreds of chapters, we do mean, or hundreds of surveys, we do mean hundreds of surveys. Over time, they just collectively have grown. And therefore, so if you're thinking about creating a survey, take a look around, do some searching. There might be a survey created already that you can possibly copy and or glean information from. And as you may know, we do have chapter awards. We have the Striving for Excellence Awards. Those are the winners were awarded during Build Business in San Diego, and that essentially is an award program for our member firms. So it's a good way to recognize our members and their firms and the work they do every year and really every day. And we also have Chapter President of the Year. That's an award that's given out once a year, and that's for one chapter president of the year. And of course, we do go through an extensive process to choose that chapter president of the year. So it's a very prestigious award. And of course, the training videos, we keep referencing My SMPS, but we also keep referencing the YouTube channel. So there is a volunteer training playlist that is on YouTube. And as Josh mentioned earlier, just type out our whole name, Society for Marketing and Professional Services, and we should be the first result that pops up. And once that training, once you click on that training playlist, you'll see that this stretches back years. And again, although it may be technically old, it's certainly not outdated. There's information you can definitely take home with you. And then the extranet. So some of you may know what this is. If you're the president, president-elect, and membership chair, you received access on September 1, and presidents can ask me directly for two other members to give access to. And basically what the extranet is it's a link to our database, so it's real time, and we mean up to the second. So if somebody were to join at this very moment, that person's, let's say the DC chapter roster would be updated this moment, essentially. So we really recommend you utilize that. And if you need access to that, please just have your president reach out. There are rosters, there are upcoming expiring member reports, there are dropped member reports, there are prospect reports. So basically there are a ton of reports that you can pull from and utilize at your disposal, and that's at any given time. And that is on our website. If you're wondering how to access that, just log into our smps.org website. Once you're in your member dashboard, if you do have access to this, you'll see it on the left-hand side once you're logged in. It's what we call a quick link on the left-hand side. If you do not see it, then it's more than likely you just don't have access. So again, reach out to me or have your president reach out to me, and I'll give you access. And that said, I'm going to turn it over to Tina.
Yeah. Next slide. So before we just end this recording and this webinar, I just want to make sure if there are any more questions, Julio.
There is, and I do apologize we didn't go over this. There was a question regarding StarChapter and billhighway in relation to regional conferences. Yes, regional conferences will be included within this whole plan. So StarChapter, there are a few regional conferences on StarChapter platform. There are about 4 that are not. So we'll also work with them on that. And there was another question regarding, oh, sorry. There was another question regarding the prospect list. So the list comes from our database. So essentially, if you want that to be updated, you can send us the list. We typically ask that chapter send us prospect lists, since we have the resources and availability to send out packets, collateral, especially with this new rebrand, we can do that. But if you find that your prospect list is a little bit outdated, it's more likely because we haven't received any prospects from your chapter in a while. So if you have an internal prospect list, send it to myself, Julio at smps.org, You can also send it to our membership email. That's membership@smps.org. And I think that just about does it for questions.
Okay. Well, then we come to the end of our webinar, but before ending, I just want all of you to know that, of course, we know that SMPS is an amazing, strong organization, but it is so because of each and every one of you. You are strong, you are passionate. We know this is not your full-time job, but maybe it feels like that sometimes. We cannot thank you enough for the time and the dedication that you have given the organization. So thank you for being a part of the call, and that ends our program today. Have a great night. Bye-bye.